What's up, students? Welcome to With You, where we seek to grow deeper in our relationship with God together. Even though we're not with you, we're with you.
We're your hosts, Phoebe and Tony.
Yesterday, Phoebe explained to us the significance behind Jesus' baptism in Matthew 3:13 through 17, and we landed on this main point. We are His, and only He could make that happen. And truly, we see that truth specifically in verse 17, where God the Father affirms His Son. And then today we're going to look once more at this text, and we're going to seek to apply it to our lives.
This passage is all about Jesus. And so how do we apply this to our own lives? Typically we hear, just be like Jesus. So Tony, should we all just go get baptized as ASAP as possible?
I mean, Jesus does definitely expect His followers to seek to be baptized and to publicly proclaim their faith among others. But I don't think that's the best way to apply this specific passage to our lives. Instead, I think we ought to focus on how Jesus impacts our identity, or how Jesus impacts who we truly are. As Phoebe already said yesterday, Jesus, the Son of God, identifies with sinful humanity, specifically by taking on flesh, and through this baptism. He became like us. But the fact is that Jesus wasn't just doing a party trick. He wanted to offer His perfection and His righteousness to people. And so Jesus became like us so that we could become like Him. Did you catch that? Jesus became like us so that we could become like Him. By placing our faith in Jesus, we're adopted into the family of God. Specifically, you see that in Ephesians 1 if you want to read more on it, which means that God is able to say the very same thing He says to Jesus in verse 17 to you. If you have your faith in Jesus, He says, "This is my beloved Son. This is my beloved daughter, with whom I am well pleased." And it's all because of Jesus' work. And get this, there's no greater identity to latch onto in this world. It's the best possible scenario.
God's perfect love for us is secure because of Jesus. And that is great truth. But I know personally for myself, that just doesn't always feel like my reality.
Yeah, I think that most of us can relate to that feeling, Phoebe. The fact is, all of us make selfish mistakes with friends. All of us forget to do our Bible reading or to pray. All of us could be better followers of Jesus. And personally, because of that, I can find myself trying to prove my worthiness to God, where I get in this dialogue with Him and say, well, God, I messed up in this way, so let me make it up to you. Have you felt that? Have you had that conversation with Him? The picture that comes in my mind is maybe like a comedian or a court jester who's trying to make sure that like the audience is entertained enough and doesn't lose them. That I'm just trying to do that to God. Like, I don't want to do so much that it pushes you away, but I also want to do enough that it keeps you near. That's why I feel like sometimes my heart kind of drifts towards, which actually is an inaccurate view of how God views us. Instead, the picture that we ought to have is like a father towards his little boy or his little girl. And really, no matter what that child does, it's not going to alter the love that the Father has for the child. And from God, in the same way, God's love for us cannot be altered. It cannot be lessened. It cannot be increased. And the reason why is because God's love is already to the max. It is perfect for all of His children. So we're talking about applying this to our lives. What can we do? And honestly, I think the best thing we can do is, as we read this passage, is just say thank you. Saying thank you to God. It's as simple as that. Because as the main point we've been reemphasizing, it says is that we are His and only He can make it happen. Without Him, we would be on our own. And so to say thank you is to really acknowledge, God, you are the one in authority and power, and you have latched my identity onto you. Thank you for that. I believe that's something that all of us can grow in. Even this week, most of us pray before we eat our meals or maybe before we go to bed. And typically we thank God for the food we have and we thank Him for our family. What if we actually thanked Him for making us His? I think that will ultimately change our hearts to be more grateful for the things He does in our lives and really open our eyes to the things He's doing around us. I think it would be really good for each of us to practice gratitude with our Father.
It is as easy as that. And our identity is secure because of Jesus. Tomorrow, we'll wrap up Jesus' baptism as we're joined by our good friend, Haley Downey. We can't wait to see you soon.
Remember, let's be real before God and with one another as long as it's called today. It's been great to be with you. Take care.